In gaming, when you have a successful series, there will more likely be a Warriors title to go with it. So for example, you have got Persona 5 Scramble and Fire Emblem Warriors, and there was Fire Emblem 3 Hopes as well. Now this is not a bad thing, I think this is a good thing, and having more titles in your favourite series is always great. If you are unaware of what a warrior style game is, basically your characters will go onto a battlefield. Well, you basically have a map, you do objectives on these maps, and you take on hordes of enemies whilst proceeding with these missions. But today I thought I'd have a little bit of fun and talk about series which could actually benefit from having a Warriors spin-off. So with that in mind, I'm thinking about what the story will be, who will star in the game, etc. We'll put that in the video. And hopefully, if any of these gaming companies wants to take my idea, I'm all for that. So with that in mind, here is 5 games I think would benefit from a Warriors style spin-off. Let's have a looky.
So my first idea was Tales of Warriors, a Warriors style spin-off for the Tales of Jrpgs series. Now here, there is loads of protagonists and loads of support characters could be taken into this game, as there is a lineage of games available in this series. Story wise, I was thinking that several protagonists from several of these games are isekai'd into our world, what they've got to protect and save from some evil big bad. Now with the Tales of series anyway, the combat is pretty fast paced. So imagine it bringing this into a more open field and having that Muso feeling where you're taking on 6,000 enemies at once. For a Tales game, this writes itself, and it would be a fantastic celebration of the Tales of series. Imagine where you could have the likes of Velvet from Berseria going with members of the cast from Tales of Arise. It would just be fantastic. But what would you think about this? Would this be a game that you would buy? Let me know down below. Anyway, what was my next idea? So my next idea was The Legend of Heroes Trails of Warriors, which would be a Warriors spin-off of The Legend of Heroes Trails of series. Now in this I was thinking character wise, well, the last game, Trails of Cold Steel 4, that had pretty much everyone throughout the Trails series available to play as. So take that large roster and put this into a Warriors style game. Imagine being Lloyd Bannings from the Crossbell arc taking on 6,000 enemies at once. Story wise, I was thinking this could be placed after the events of likes of Trails of Cold Steel 4 and in between Trails of Riviera, which is going to be the latest game coming out for the series in the West. Again, with this, I think it writes itself. Having free flow action instead of a turn-based combat, it would be a nice little evolution to these series. But what are your thoughts on this one? Do you think this is a yay or nay? Let me know down below. But we've got 3 more to think about. Let's have a look and see what's next. So my next idea was Dissidia Final Fantasy Warriors. Now you might be thinking, hold on, why have you picked Dissidia? There's a reason for this. Dissidia Final Fantasy has a story already in place which takes the characters out of their respective games. So this was a nice idea to revisit the Dissidia story with all these characters available. So in the Dissidia games you have all the main protagonists from your mainline series and you have all your antagonists from the mainline series as well. I think it would benefit having secondary characters, so for example you could bring from Final Fantasy VII, you could have Tifa again, you could have the likes of Vincent, Yuffie, or for likes of Final Fantasy VIII you could have Zell, Selphie. So many characters that you can pull from these games. To be honest with you, I really don't understand why there hasn't been a Warriors game done for the Final Fantasy series. With Dissidia Final Fantasy NT basically flopping, I think having a Warriors style game with the Dissidia name on it would actually save that sub-series, and I think it would just do wonders for the game. But anyway, again, this is just my thoughts and ideas. What would you think about this? How would you want it differently? Or do you think this is just a bad idea overall? Let me know down below. Anyway, what's the next idea? So my next idea was Xenoblade Chronicles Warriors. Now I thought this was a really good idea because there is such a strong cast of protagonists in each Xenoblade Chronicles game. How I would have this story wise is I would actually have it in 3 different story paths. So you would have one story path being based on the first Xenoblade cast, the likes of Shulk, etc. Second would be the likes of Rex, Pyra, etc. And then the third, you can see where this is going. And eventually having all the stories collide where they come together somehow. I was thinking that this would be a good idea because currently with the Xenoblade games, it's an auto battle system. And when you have the likes of Shulk who wields such an amazing iconic sword in Jrpg history, I just think it would be great to have that fast action when he's taking on likes of Mechonis. Imagine that going against 6,000 Mechonis. It would just be ace. And imagine playing as the likes of Pyra and just going nuts with all her fire attacks, etc. I just think this game writes itself. But anyway, do you think this game writes itself, or would you just want it not to be touched at all? Let me know what your thoughts are, and let's see what's next on my list. Now my next choice was Like a Dragon Warriors. Now for those unaware, Like a Dragon is now the new name going forward for the Yakuza series. Come on guys, this one writes itself. I like to see the characters brought from Yakuza, Yakuza Like a Dragon and Judgment into this game. Yakuza games already have action-based combat, so imagine taking on loads of hordes of enemies. It just writes itself. And we need to keep all those mini games intact. Also, the cheesiness of the job system from Like a Dragon needs to be included in this. Imagine taking on hordes of enemies with your lobster summons. Story-wise, I would just think it would be all our characters coming together to save the day from some big evil clan which has moved in. I just think this game writes itself. I actually quite enjoyed doing this one. Anyway, what were your thoughts on these choices of mine? Let me know down below. Or if you think any other game would benefit from this, let me know as well. And please help me grow the channel by liking, sharing and subscribing. But until then, tatty bye!